Money work.
Did you build a new garage or just like remodel your garage?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, just get it over.
Money work. Se arregla con dinero.
SE project branding logo, that's one here.
Money work. Si me quiero educar, dormir en algún lugar.
That was the way we're gonna change the kickstand now, guys.
Si no hay para emigrar.
Hopefully I'm all good, guys. I roll over something.
Money work. El mundo quiere dinero.
Yeah, I know.
Money work. Se arregla con dinero.
SE project branding logo, that's one here.
Money work. Si me quiero educar, dormir en algún lugar.
Really cool. And we're also gonna change the kickstand now, guys. Alright, let's see if we put that in.
Hopefully I'm all good, guys. I roll over something.
Money work. El mundo quiere dinero.
Yeah, I know.
Money work. Se arregla con dinero.
SE project branding logo, that's one here.
Money work. Si me quiero educar, dormir en algún lugar.
Really cool. And we're also gonna change the kickstand now, guys. Alright, let's see if we put that in.
Hopefully I'm all good, guys. I roll over something.
Money work. El mundo quiere dinero.
Yeah, I know.
Money work. Se arregla con
Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know if everything sounds good, everybody. Super excited to be back.
Si me quiero educar, dormir en algún lugar.
Really cool. And we're also gonna change the kickstand now, guys. Alright, let's see if we put that in. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. It's been a hot minute. How's the audio sounding, guys? I just want to make sure we come back strong, make sure everything sounds good. Little feedback. Okay. How about now? SE project branding logo, that's one here. Slight feedback.
Dormir en algún lugar.
Really cool. And we're also gonna change the kickstand now, guys. Alright, let's see if we put that in. Let me see.
Hopefully I'm all good, guys. I roll over
Cut
something.
that. What's good, everybody? Welcome to another Freestyle Sunday. I know there's a little bit of an echo. A little bit of a rough one here. Let's see if I can spot that where the echo's coming from so we can kind of throw it off.
Yeah, I know.
What's good with everybody, man? Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys coming through. Checking out Freestyle Sunday. Back with a vengeance, guys. We are back in the garage. So we'll talk about that a little bit shortly.
How about now? That should get rid of the feedback, correct? Yes, I think I got it. Feedback is back. It's back. feedback. Oh, it's good. We got it.
All right.
Oh, man. There we go. Everybody's saying it's good. Thank you, guys. It took a lot of effort to get the stream going today. Trust me, I actually sacrificed a day of riding to getting this done. Today we got a really dope guest. I'm going to talk about that shortly, but you guys know the deal. I always have to talk about the... we always got to talk about the sponsor of the channel, which is Motivation USA. So we're gonna highlight that really, really quickly and chat about that first, and then we'll get into it. I'm actually here with Dave tonight. He's a brand new owner of the RVE. So he's gonna give us a rundown as to what's been going on in his world, some of the issues he's been tackling, best practices, and breaking in a bike. That's a controversial one, so we'll talk about that too.
Cool. Yeah, take it gentle on me, man. Don't rush things.
Absolutely not. We're not gonna do that. You know what? Let's get straight into it, man. David, tell us all about you.
Hey, man. What's up, everybody? My name's David. Owner of Flash by V Cycle Nut. Basically, I'm a motorcycle tuner, but I specialize in about a dozen or so motorcycles. The motorcycles I specialize in, I develop mail-in flashes for them from stock. I test all the exhausts that are out, all the intakes are out. I do road tuning, road testing, dyno testing. So I try to build a platform with a database and trying to bring the best flash available for each bike that I specialize in. So I recently got, like you said, got the RVE. I can't currently yet flash that, but we can talk about that later. Hopefully, some of the people listening can help us make that happen, so we can really get some good tuning on it. And yeah, so far I've got about today I cracked over 400 miles on it. I've had it to the racetrack. I've had it on the dyno, and overall, real happy with it. I usually think of Ducatis when you buy them; they're kind of like a starting point, right? And this is a really good starting point. So I think it's really going to be, when it's fully developed out, quite the machine.
So much to talk about regarding this RVE. I'm just going to call it now. This bike is completely unexpected out of the Ducati camp. We all got used to the Hypermotard SP line and the standard version. And again, that's what Ducati was going for initially. But the bike, I'd say, was way too heavy. So much so, I did a ton of trim down on my SP to kind of make it a little bit more supermoto-ish. Trimming down, making a lot of carbon fiber upgrades. Emission canister, quick sprocket change I did, 520 conversion. What else? I mean, the list goes on and on. I've shaved tons of weight off the bike, but it's still pretty hefty in comparison to the new RVE. So before we go any further, one of the biggest thing that people always talk about regarding Ducati is the entry price point. We might as well tackle that right off the bat, and then from there we could start cascading into things. So to me, expensive, it's a matter of perspective, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's trying to find value in motorcycles. I find that kind of a bit of a silly thing, right? They're not practical. These are fun. They're toys. There's plenty of bikes out that don't offer the excitement and the coolness of it, that are far less expensive. Yeah, if you look at what it is and the price point, yeah, it seems a bit expensive, but that's the price to play, right? So yeah, I think it's about perspective, quality of components, and you're getting something pretty unique and pretty awesome.
And to be fair, I think that entry price point is comparable. I think a lot of people, when they're looking at this bike, they're not even considering the entry price point of the 12,005. Is it 12,005?
Yeah, for the base model, 13.
It's 13. So we're looking at maybe $1,000 or $750 difference in comparison to your Husqvarna, KTM,
right.
gas. So that's the real entry price point. Everyone's kind of overlooking that, looking at the RVE version. This is just designed for these specifics of people like me that's either part of Ducati or looking to get something a little bit more unique, or someone that's a little bit more, you know, in the right space in their career. They might spend a little bit more just for it. I mean, my point of view regarding the whole thing is these motorcycles, money-wise and value-wise, they don't really equate. They're just toys, and then the value tends to go down. So whether you look at it from a perspective of the RVE in comparison with the gas and everything else, it's relative, you know?
Yeah, when you compare it to, like you're saying, to the other similar products, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's outrageously expensive at that point. It's when you try to say, holy shit, it's a single cylinder motorcycle, blah blah blah, and this is how much it costs. But the other ones do basically also. So I agree. It's not fair also to compare the RVE, which is $1,500 more. If you really want to split hairs, you can get it on the bike for $13,000. So.
Exactly. All right, so no more wasting time. I'm gonna talk about the elephant in the room. You had a big mishap with your RVE, and you're the first off. Let's talk about what you do, because I bumped into your channel because I am into Ducati and I bought the RVE, and I've been searching for a lot of hypermotard stuff, and come to find out you have a very interesting channel. And if you guys are tuned in, make sure you go and subscribe to David's channel. A lot of great information. It's not like a kid's channel, but very informative, very useful. And this is the kind of stuff that I enjoy watching on YouTube. So definitely check him out.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah. In regards to like tuning, you're the first person to do a oil change, covering some small bits that are not being spoken of. What else? Air filter. You've basically taken the bike somewhat apart. You've done the heated grips. That's a big deal also. You're ahead of everyone regarding this. And I'm not talking about return of doing hooligan stuff. You're doing like some fun stuff, track days, and you're doing educational stuff with it. So, you know, just kind of walk us through that and you tuning bikes and your perspective regarding horsepower versus torque. So that's the main thing everyone's talking about.
Yeah, sure. So my channel is flashed by V-Cycle Nut. So yeah, I appreciate anybody that would like to give me a follow. Like you said, I do a lot of, mostly, like I said, on the bikes I specialize in, but I provide data and information that's not easy to get out there. In the end, I'm an enthusiast, right? I'm just like you, love motorcycles. I love tuning motorcycles. I love riding motorcycles. And bringing them to get as much out of whatever bike I own, right? So that's where I started. And now I've been doing mail-in flashes since about 2011. And I have my own dyno, of course, and all this stuff. So it gives me the ability to do testing that before I had this equipment that I couldn't really do, right? And so you end up with a deeper understanding of a lot of this stuff because it's what I do. So, you know, I'm doing 1,000 dyno runs a year or whatever it is and testing all these different things. So, yeah, I think for me with the hypermotard, so far, I can't, like I said, I can't tune it yet until hopefully Wheelie releases the ability to tune it. So there's a bit of, can I talk about ECU flashing? Would you want to talk about that? Because there's a bit of misconception.
Yeah, absolutely. Please dive
into
it.
What an ECU flash is, you'll hear a lot of people will very wrongly compare it to like jailbreaking your phone, which is not at all what it's like, right? So when you're flashing an ECU, all you're doing is writing to the part of the memory in the ECU that you can write to. The dealers do this. It's a normal process. It's not, you're not doing anything that's damaging or trying to, you know, unlock things that aren't supposed to be. You're not trying to get features that aren't. And basically, I use two main software companies that develop the stuff to be able to flash. One of them is FTECU in California. The other one's Wheelie, and they're based out of Australia. So what they do when a new bike comes out is they do a readout on the ECU, and they look at where all of the memory for the tuning parameters is stored. So then when you want to change a fueling parameter and say at 5,000 RPMs at 50% throttle, I want to give it 10% more fuel, they give me access to be able to do that. So they give me access to fly-by-wire tables, they give me access to ignition tables, fueling tables, all these different tables, to be able to turn off certain sensors and things that are going to affect, but anything related to tuning, they give me access to. So currently, like I'm saying, the RVE, the 698, it's not in the software. So all the testing I'm doing now is kind of like the Airbox testing that I did, right? So I discovered that so a lot of people, when you look at the motor, a 690, it's set basically 650 cc's, I think is what it ends up being, right? You have one cylinder that's 650 cc's, so every time that piston comes down, it's trying to take a huge gulp of air, as opposed to a 700 cc four-cylinder bike where the cylinders are quarter of the size, right? So that Airbox lid, if you look at it, it's literally breathing through like this little tiny slot. So when I removed that, it filled in all the holes in every hole that I had in the dyno run. So there's going to be huge potential by modifying the Airbox lid, and I'm actually working on producing an Airbox lid for it. But without being able to tune it, it's just ridiculously lean and not a way I would want to ride the bike. So we still have some limitations on what we can do, but I'm sure Wheelie will get there, and then we'll be able to really unleash the beast.
Let me ask you this question. Oh my God, I just totally troubleshooted something. Oh my God, the minute, you guys probably heard me talking a little bit strange. Everything I've been saying has been repeating in my head through my mic, and I fixed it while we were talking, so thank God. Oh my God, that's why I was speaking slightly weird. I do have a question for you. I know the KTM, I mean, we're doing a lot of comparison talk at this point. I know KTM has more torque than the Ducati. However, the Ducati has more horsepower. Where do you see them landing in comparison between the two? Because you're a tuner guy, right? You know exactly what it's like. Would you prefer?
Yeah, so it seems like without having them here, it seems like the bottom, the very, so what torque and horsepower. So torque and horsepower are related, right? So when basically horsepower is just torque higher up in the RPM. So it seems to me that the Ducati is going to have more torque higher, which will make more horsepower, but it won't have that like at 3,000, 3,500 RPMs. I don't think it's ever going to have that real snap that seems that the Huskies and the KTMs have off the bottom. But like when I did my testing, it is extremely lean. And so some of that, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement on the tuning in the Ducati. So I don't think it's really fair to compare it totally how it is now, because it's really neutered and not good. So I think that I'm positive that it's really lean in that area where we would want that bottom end snap. And I also think the throttle tables, because it's a fly-by-wire bike, so you're not really turning the throttle. The computer's turning the throttle for you. And I think those are very conservative, like not snappy enough. So I think when I'm able to get into the ECU and fix that, I think that we'll find a lot of that feeling of like, well, it's not really that snappy off the bottom. I think a lot of that will change. I don't know that it'll ever match it, but the top end hit on it already is pretty crazy, even with it not fueled right? Like I think, I don't remember the exact number I got, but it was like 77 horsepower or something like that. And that's with the stock pipe. So once we're able to uncork this thing with the intake and the exhaust and tune it properly, I think it's going to be quite the beast. And until we can do that, I don't think it's really fair to compare.
Yeah, well, for me, to be fair, I think we're seeing a lot of Ducati DNA here. I think it's more of a trainer's bike when we're talking about Ducati. You know, them having more power midway and all the way up to the top, and you having a higher rev range. We're talking about some of their best racers going to be using this to practice on go-kart tracks. Somebody like me would probably use it to just hoon around and do wheelies and everything else. So we're seeing two different style of ridings being clashed together, I think.
Yeah, it's easier to ride a bike faster at the track if the application of the power is smooth. When you get every time you touch it, if it wants to break the back tire loose or lift up the front tire, then that's not easy to make a good lap time, right? There's exciting, but with the bike having multiple throttle modes, I would prefer to be able to make one of the modes snappy and aggressive and not perfect for riding at the track, and then have a different mode that would have a smooth throttle application. So you could have the best of both worlds. And there'd be no reason once I'm in the ECU that I won't be able to do that. I'll make one mode that's snappy and aggressive, and then another mode where the throttle application is smooth. But in the end, if they're full throttle, they'll both make the same. So that's what fly-by-wire allows us to do, which is really cool.
Yeah, very similar to what I did with my SP. I know there's 3 different roads. I don't really ride in the rain, so what I did was I took my SP and made the rain mode completely dialed down to no nannies at all, where the bike can operate whichever way I wanted to. So that's, I guess, somewhat similar to what you're explaining here, right? Oh, I think David lost connection, guys. Stand by. But I guess I spoke too smooth. David definitely has a little bit of connection issues. I'll definitely resend him a link back to the stream. So, but for now, we can definitely chat up. By the way, what's good with you guys, man? Hopefully, you guys are digging the way the garage look and everything else. This has been a journey, to be honest, man. Even though I wasn't like doing the stream, I'm still pretty active. You guys can definitely hit up the channel. There's a ton of videos on the Aprilia RS660, also on the RVE and some of the other bikes. But it's been a journey trying to get the garage all done. It's still a little bit messy. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to kind of get put together. But for now, this is where we are. And I kind of figured, let's get to work and at least start uploading and start doing the stream again. Because I know a lot of people are just really like excited for me to bring this back. That seems to be the crux of the channel at this point. So we're going to fly with it. We're going to rock with it. While David comes back, I could answer some questions if you guys have any questions. So feel free to drop them in the comment section or in the live chat. I'm so excited right now, man. You know what's so funny? Even though I've done this countless times, I was extremely nervous going live today. It was just crazy, man. It's like the first day all over again, but it's all good. Dragon S Moto is in the building. Oh my God, you haven't even been on social media and you just stopped by. That's awesome. I'm glad you came by to say hi. Hopefully everything is good with you. That's cool. These are the small things that I love about doing the stream, things like that, because it takes so much time, so much effort. Like today, I wanted to go out and ride and put some miles, and I ended up staying home. I ended up staying just prepping and getting things ready and moving my whole setup around just to kind of get things going. All right, I just shot David a message letting him know that he could join back on the same link that I gave him originally. So any questions, guys, regarding the RVE? Currently, my current favorite bike out of all the bikes in the garage. Maybe I'm just like a simp for supermotos. I am a little bit. I do like sport bikes a lot. The thing that I struggle with in terms of sport bike, if you guys check out my
I think I made it back.
Video. Oh, you're back.
Hey, I'm back. I'm back.
I'm gonna patch you in shortly. The one thing about for me in riding super bikes, guys, if you see my latest video today, when I get on sport bikes, it gets a little intense. So, you know, I like to pace things with like my naked bikes and stuff. I still have a good time, a lot of torque, a lot of area to play with, so I don't have to get in too much trouble. So. But when I ride the Aprilia, it's a little crazy. So that would be the same thing on any super bike. You could see my old video in 650E when I rode his S1000RR. Same kind of riding style, kind of translate over. And I'm very comfortable with going fast. So I tend to get heightened. So for now, at the moment, I'm steady with the wheelies and burnouts and just like doing fun things on supermoto, staying safe. So it's kind of like my thing at the moment. David, you're back. I think he's moving into his garage. And oh, by the way, David does have the RVE. I did mention that, guys. He's done so much work on this motorcycle as of now. And again, I thought he'd be a great person to have on. There are some other interesting candidates that's going to come on the show. You guys are going to enjoy that as well. But for now, I think this is the place that we want to be. Guys, let me know if everything sounds good in terms of audio and everything else. I just want to make sure that that sounds good. Yeah, I think we are. I'm sure everybody would be like, there's an echo. Yeah, Wheelie videos are definitely coming very soon. So I'm trying to get through my break-in period. Oh, 950 Wheelie videos. those will come too. Why not? Believe it or not, I actually find that the Aprilia is even easier to wheelie than the SP, so that's that. There you go. Welcome back, David.
Thank you. I went out back. So like I was telling you, I live out, like, I literally live on the Canadian border, so I have like satellite internet. So I'm doing my best, but it sometimes gets a bit sketchy. So
no, man, I appreciate you being on the stream. So we'll make it work. No problem.
all right.
All right. Just gotta find
I'll just keep walking around the different parts of my house and
until you get the right connection.
get the right connection. Right now I'm out back, so yeah, it's pretty nice out.
Let's plug you in really quickly.
Yeah, I do got to say that the wheelie control, the stock wheelie control on the 698 is pretty disappointing. My MT10 has way better wheelie control than it does. It's so today I thought I had it on and I had it off, and and it stood straight up and down on me without it was a bit shocking.
Wait, so you've already went through the settings and stuff and wheelie the RVE?
Yeah, I find the dash a lot easier to use than I thought it would be. I thought it, with the one, and that was one of the things I read about in the test, that like, oh, it's hard and difficult, but I like it. I like how you can preset whatever you want in the different modes, and then while you're in the mode, you can scroll through and double check what you're in, like the up and down switch on the left. Like you can scroll through and see what all your settings are. So if you're riding and you're like, well, what do I have? I don't remember what I have the rear ABS at or whatever. You can literally scroll right through. So I found it pretty easy to use. Like I said, wheelie control, even on one, which should be the least obtrusive, it comes up about like 1.5 feet, and then it just falls on its face. Which I think it's a ploy to get us to get the reprogramming on when you get the exhaust.
No, so here's the thing. Let me explain this. I went through the manual super thoroughly, and I only did this because of my hypermotard speed. I struggled to wheelie that bike for a little bit, even when I toned down the Ducati traction control and then the ABS, it was still cutting. Come to find out, hence why I made the rain mode become my wheelie mode. Like, let's say if I'm doing like wheelies and just kind of very aggressive riding or whatever, you have to completely turn everything off. Even though you dial it down to the lowest, there's still a sub system that will prevent you from completely going back. So
yeah, right. No, I can appreciate that.
Well, I think it's a very safety thing for them to do. They're expecting for someone that's seasoned, that knows what they're doing. They're gonna go further back. So you're gonna go to setting 1 for what. Basically, if you go to Ducati traction control, you turn that off completely. It'll deactivate everything else. But you would have to remove it from 1 to make it completely null in order for you to have full control. I think a lot of people might not know this. I've seen a couple of videos early on where a couple of people were trying to wheelie the bike and it wasn't going too far out. Again, it's preventing you from doing that. I don't think it's really a subsystem expecting you to do the upgrade. That upgrade, I think, will be a useful thing, because if you don't know how to wheelie, you want to learn. I don't think that's going to teach you how to wheelie. It's going to help you deal with the fear.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because anyone that knows how to wheelie or that's practiced how to do wheelies, it's not the wheelie that's scary. It's that sinking feeling when you go up, right? Once you know, if you know it's not going to flip you over, then you're more likely to trust it.
Agree. Yeah. So I'm not a big wheelie guy. Like I can't just pop it up on the back tire and ride down the street. But like I'm saying, like on my MT10 with wheelie control in one, where I know it will catch me and not let me flip over, it'll allow me to put it up pretty high and ride it out pretty good with it still on, knowing it's going to catch me and it won't let me flip over. With the hypermotard, if I have it on at all, it really is really conservative, like way too conservative. So you turn it off, yeah, it'll stand straight up, but I would like to have, I would like it to be a useful tool, which, like they're saying, when we do the upgrade with the exhaust, so supposedly it's much better.
Are you going with the Ducati Termi exhaust, or are you gonna wait for something else like an after?
So I've already ordered the Termi exhaust. So like if we can get Wheelie to release it and allow me to tune it, I'll literally test every exhaust that comes out, because that's what I do. So if I'm able to tune it, and then I can test all the different exhaust configurations that come out, and I can give everybody real information about which one actually performs the best. If I can't tune it, then I feel like I got to go with the one Ducati has the tune for, because otherwise, what are you going to do? It's already, like I said, really lean and fueled poorly. Adding an exhaust to it without being able to tune it's not going to help. It's going to make it worse.
I do have a question for you. Does your RVE does this? When you pull in the clutch, you drop it to first gear. If you have it completely snatched in, the clutch, it idles lower, but if you're two-figuring the clutch where it's not actuated yet, but you basically like this, it idles louder. I think it might be the fueling. I don't know if yours does that or if it's
I haven't noticed it. I'll have to pay more attention the next time I ride, and I'll shoot you a text and see what I think.
Yeah, let me know, because I'm very curious about that. Because again, when I'm on mine, pull the clutch in, drop it to first gear, even though it's not completely engaged, you hear the idling. I was looking into it. Some people mentioned that it might be the fueling.
Yeah, and sometimes there's like an in gear and a neutral idle that's a little different, where they'll actually have different settings. So when you having the clutch in and versus having the clutch out, it might have a different idle setting.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna play this real quick. I just want to show this to everyone. It's your recent mishap while you were at the track, and then we'll kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So is that you're gonna play a video, or you want me to talk?
Yeah, I'm gonna play your video so we
can
take a look at it.
All right.
Yeah. So it's not just both us goofballs here just talking, so they get to actually enjoy something. Let's take a look here.
So this was my first ever track session on the Hypermotard. I struggled a little bit with the standard shift pattern coming from the ZX4RR that I normally ride. The seating position was really weird and just hanging off. And just as I was starting to get comfortable, this happened.
You have to tell me when it's done, because I was like, I
just got done my first session on the Hypermotard, and I was in a corner and the back end stepped out. And I was like, well, I'm not really going that hard. I can't believe that happened. And so I gingerly brought it back to the pits, and my axle bolt and adjuster is gone, as you can see. So I'm really fortunate that I'm able to make this video and didn't crash it. I've already called the dealer I bought it from and asked, like, what the hell was my $1,500 in prep fees for? And of course they blame it on the factory, that it's a factory torque bolt, and that they don't check those things, which, yeah, obviously I'm a little upset and not happy. Fortunately, like I said, I'm all in one piece. No harm, no foul, except I just came 20 hours. I was supposed to do a street ride with it tomorrow, and that's probably not going to happen unless we can pull off some miracle. So, yeah, awesome. So, miracles do happen.
There we go. Yep, the video's all done, man.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that was pretty scary. The bike had got 170 miles on it, I guess, when I got to the track. It went through tech, and I talked to tech guy afterward came up to me and was saying, he had physically put his hands on the nut, and it was, it wasn't like crazy loose, but obviously it wasn't fully tight. And I hadn't touched it. So that was the factory torque. And it was about my 5th lap, went into a corner, felt the back end kind of skip a little bit, and it was like, that's odd. I'm not going that hard. And then the next corner, it did it again. I knew something was wrong at that point, nursed it back to the pits. I got off the bike, and I was missing the axle nut and the adjusting block. So I was extremely fortunate. Like, I kept vacillating between being really angry and being really feeling fortunate and lucky that nothing happened. It could have been really ugly if way I picture would have happened is the axle would have came out a little bit, the tire would have cocked sideways, and the back tire would have just locked up. So had that happened in mid corner, and there's a couple corners there that are 60, 70 miles an hour. I think it would have been pretty ugly. I was upset at the dealer. I accept responsibility that I went to a racetrack and I didn't check my axle nuts. Hey, it's not the brightest, but brand new bike. I figured it was safe to assume they were checked, and the dealer said they don't check them in their prep, which I thought was pretty lame. But fortunately, nothing happened. I have a new bolt, a new nut, and a new adjuster block on its way. And Chuck Graves of Graves Motorsports was a freaking rock star, and had somebody he knowed machine me out a new nut so that I could actually go riding on it when I was up there. And actually, I rode all day today on it. So it has a non-factory adjuster block and another different nut on the back of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd be more upset or more thankful in your situation, because realistically, what happened there would have completely totaled the bike, and you would have gotten hurt as well, because
most likely
the chain and the rear tire mangled the back, and the rear suspension would have been damaged. They would have just totaled the bike out. It's not a super expensive bike, but in this case, you would have lost everything. It's not a common thing, but I figured we'd talk about it because it's already spreading like wildfire based off your short video. And I know people are just waiting for any kind of mishap to kind of talk about, well, it's a Ducati or something like that, thing like that happened. It is a brand new bike, brand new part of the lineup kind of thing. Should I be worried about mine?
I mean, I would tighten it. I would check it for sure. The another thing that's been a bit of a turnoff for me is like you can't order a service manual for the bike. They don't even make them available, so you can't really look up the torque on it. But it's 135 Newton meters on the rear axle is what it should be torqued to.
Yeah, mine is pretty tight. Hold on, I just.
Is that what you're doing now? Are you checking your nuts, man?
Hells yeah.
Yeah, you gotta check your nuts every once in a while, because they can't be all loose. Bad shit happens when your nuts get loose.
I just had to put my hands on it. I look back and I'm like, maybe I should look, but I got mine from Hudson Valley Motorcycles, and they're pretty good. It was a pretty seamless interaction, and they got the bike pretty quick. They even got me the belly pan for the bike, which still hasn't been delivered because most of these parts are not available yet. So the reason why I'm kind of leaning more towards this part of the conversation is, what is it looking like in terms of you getting that nut, the OEM one, and the block? Because it looks like there's no parts available for the bike yet. So it's a sketchy road we're skating in.
Yeah, so the dealer is telling me that I should have it the beginning of April. That's not too horrible.
Okay, that's not too bad. So
no.
They're gearing up by having pretty much everything that's needed for the bikes.
Yeah, not everything. I mean, like I ordered the exhaust, and I still don't have an expected date on that. Do you have an expected date when yours is supposed to come in?
No, I'm waiting for the SE Project exhaust.
Ah, nice. Hence the motivation, because Motivation sells SC exhaust.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they do. I like Motivation. They're good guys. I've dealt with them before in the past, and they're just a good group of guys.
Are you going to MotoGP this year?
I am actually. Yeah, I'm going to Thailand, man. Thailand.
Sir? Oh, you're going to Thailand? I thought you were going to Texas.
Man, every time I always have something planned prior to them announcing the coded dates. Like be the simple. I'm not that far from there, man. I'd love to go, but every year I already have plans. So no, I'm not going to Coda, and that's the only race I've been to. Laguna. I was to Indy when it was at Indy, But me and the wife are renting a motorcycle and taking a 2-week trip across Thailand and starting with MotoGP. So that is going to be awesome.
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, I can't complain about that. But what would have been really cool if you did go to GP in Texas this year? They are working on. Should I be saying this? They are definitely working on something big in their party. Like a huge event is happening. I'm still trying to convince my wife to actually fly out with me, and she's like, "Nah." She went last year. She had an amazing time, and she's like, "I'm gonna slow you down or whatever." So I'm still trying to convince her to go. Because I know they're doing something special in their party. So I'm like, oh, that would have been great for us to meet up at GP.
Yeah, if I didn't have plans, I'd be there. I definitely would be there, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into something that's interesting. Breaking in the bike. Breaking in the bike.
Well, why we gotta go there, man? Why we gotta go there? Like, everybody always gotta go there. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, well, so what's your take on it, man? What's your take on it, Mike?
All right, so... It's a tough one. It's like controversial. So, my thoughts are a little bit split. I think in older motorcycles, before technology and engine builds were a lot, ideal, you would have to follow the manual and the instructions. I think by default they continuously follow that because it's just the nature of the game. And granted, when the engine block is brand new, the piston is going up and down several revolutions per second. It is new, so it is going to scrape to some degree, but I think it does require some kind of breaking in. But I've been told, ride the bike the way you want to ride it, and don't hold back kind of thing. As long as you're not holding it up to the red line or you constantly cracking it over the RPMs and stuff, you should be okay. But I'm finding for myself with a Ducati, I say follow the instruction.
Fair enough.
It's not even just a Ducati thing. I think any manufacturer will take any opportunity to say, hey, you spent 20 grand, you spent $15,000, you messed it up and you didn't follow what we said, it's on you. So I tend to try and to not let them have that excuse. So I follow what they say, and then 600 miles after that, it's no holds barred. I can do whatever I want on my bike. And I don't mod it. I don't change anything on the bike before doing that because, again, similar circumstance with my Aprilia RS 660, right? When I got the bike delivered, I wasn't home. My wife was home. When I got home, I noticed the cluster on the left-hand side was a little loose, and it was squirrely a little bit. I did a video of it. It's dated and everything else. I sent it to the dealer. I said, hey, I just got home, and I'm looking at the bike over. I kind of inspected, and I noticed, this was, they're like, no problem. When we're doing the first service, we'll take care of whatever. If it needs to be replaced, no problem. I said, okay, cool. It took me about, I don't know, maybe a month and a half. I was riding the Hyper last summer a lot more. And by the time they got the bike and they started doing all the maintenance, they called me asking, hey, did you mod your bike out? We noticed it's loose. I'm like, guys, I emailed about this the day one it was delivered. What are we having this conversation? And again, this is why for me, in terms of breaking these bikes in, I'm already in already. I bought it brand new, so I might as well just follow what's going on because again, they're gonna tell you, hey, you did this, and it has, that cluster had nothing to do with anything, but they will hold that against everything else. So hence why I kind of leave it as it should be. Now your take.
So I'm a bit impatient. So no, I feel that the biggest thing that we want to do on a new motor is seat the piston rings, and to seat the piston rings, it takes pressure. So basically, any new bike I ride them approximately 100 miles. And if anybody was behind me during that 100 miles, they would think I got a few screws loose, which maybe I do, but that's got nothing to do with it. Because I'll accelerate up in a lower gear, in like a second gear, third gear, accelerate real quick up to like 3/4 of red line, and then roll off of it and let it decel, and then accelerate and decel. So I don't do much steady state throttle cruising for that first 100 miles. At the same time, I won't let it sit there and idle and get real hot. I feel like heat is a bad thing on a new motor. So I won't let it get real hot. I won't do big, heavy loads on it. Like I would think, to me, putting the bike in 6th gear and whacking it open from a low RPM, I think is harder on the motor than a quick rev up through 2nd gear or whatever, right? So then once I get about 100 miles on it, I will bring it home and change the oil, and that's when I made that oil change video on the Hyper. I think I had 115 miles on it or so when I changed it. And then at that point, I'll heat cycle them 3 or 4 times with short rides or on my dyno. And then, so usually by about 150 miles, most of my bikes are on the dyno getting the shit beat out of them. And I've yet to have a failure. I always say, it's your shiny new bike, like you were talking about. You should break in your shiny new bike how you like to. But yeah, I've just seen too many race teams and stuff like literally build a motor and break it in on a dyno, a couple heat cycles, drop the oil, and then they just ram the hell out of it. So, you know, like we were talking about a little bit about this earlier, and if you do the math on like in 100 miles, averaging like 6,000 RPMs and 50 miles an hour, it comes out to something like 800,000 revolutions or something just astronomical number of revolutions. So I don't really think things are polishing past that point, and I think getting out the assembly lube and all that, any dirt that might have been in there while it was being assembled is the most important thing. It's heating the rings, and then after that, I don't think anything magical is happening. So most of my bikes, like I said, by the time they got 150, no more than 200 miles on them, I'm getting baseline dyno runs on them just to see where they're at.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's your bike. You pick and choose the path. But in your case, it's very similar to my buddy Jojo, very similar to my buddy 5UP. But then again, you guys are very actively working on your bike. You understand the inner workings. You understand how things work. For me, it's really just working through the rev range and also working the gearbox. The gearbox seems to be very important in terms of that braking in period as well, not just the pistons, just getting it, because in the beginning, it was difficult to hit neutral. I don't know if it was like that in yours as well.
Yeah, that's usually more clutch drag, though, than I think transmission.
Okay, fair enough, because it's brand new. The plates haven't been worn in.
Correct.
Through it. So
yep.
I actually let the bike warm up quite a bit before going, not letting it completely hot.
Yeah, no, that's always good to warm up anytime, really. I think we get impatient. We start our bike and jump on it and go. But yeah, having all the, especially like you're saying, when it's new, having the metals come up the temperature more slow is better than them getting way too hot too quick. Metal expands as it gets hot, and we're trying to control that, right? Especially if so yeah. I think everything's manufactured so well now, it'd be kind of hard to fuck up, truthfully. Like whether you break it in pretty easy or whether you go at it pretty hard, I think most of us end up in the same place.
So why do you think they're still following up the old archaic rule of 600 miles? I mean, it's not just Ducati. Pretty much most. No,
they all do. Yeah. I mean, I've bought a few new bikes this year, and they all have it. I don't know. I truly don't know the answer to that. Maybe safety. That if something was wrong, it's going to present. If something was assembled wrong, it's going to present itself in the first little bit anyway. And you don't want people getting hurt. I don't, honestly, Mike. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't always know why people do things or companies. Liability usually comes down to money or something, right? It's always about money. Where's the money trail? Show me the money. Show me the money, Mike.
I'm gonna play another video of yours, which I think is an interesting one that we could talk about. It's nothing crazy this time around, so chill out, guys. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's showing out all the negative stuff." It's not. What I want to show here is it's a Ducati thing, right? You did your grips. So I'm just going to quickly let that roll so people can see it.
To install some heated grips on my Hypermotard 698 RVE. Got the grips here. First I was like, damn, they didn't come with no instructions. But Ducati does this. You use the little code, and I was able to.
Sorry, I dropped an F-bomb. I get carried away when I get
through
it said.
these, and we can figure it out. We're going to start on the throttle side, and
can you hear the ducks going crazy in the background?
Which I was kind of surprised about. I guess they don't want you taking these off. So first thing, obviously, if we're going to take this off, we have to take the guard off. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So that was pretty easy. Just removed the 5mm bolt and swung this out of the way. And now I have here. I'm going to follow the cables back. They go somewhere. And I'll try to figure out where they go because the instructions. I was able to find the connections pretty easily. Just take the number plate off. There was a bolt on each side, and then it just pulled straight out of here. They were pretty tight in here, so pull by it. It was kind of a little scary pulling on it that hard. Rubber ties holding this down, and then I'm just going to remove the screws from the underside of this so that I can remove the whole throttle assembly. So the throttle assembly is loose and ready to come off, but I just need to get some more slack in this wire, and I have it unplugged. This is the plug for the fly-by-wire, and that's where it plugged in, and it was just like tucked into here. So now I'm just going to feed this out through the back of it so that I can completely remove the throttle. So as it is, there's definitely not enough room to get this out in the back, but there's a screw right there and a screw right there. I think when I remove them, I'll be able to pull this forward and really have some room to work. That gave me more room, but now there's a wire tie that's holding the...
It is really, really cool seeing you tear the bike down like that. I had a similar thing when I bought my Street Fighter V4S. I did a lot of work on it myself, and that was pretty daunting. The reason why I was playing that clip of yours, of you breaking the bike down, is the issue that you encounter afterwards, which I thought was kind of a pain in the neck, so this is why I'm kind of highlighting. Can you cover that real quick?
Yeah, so basically the short of it, the long of the short of it or whatever, is that they have to be turned on by the dealer. So the dealer has to plug into your computer to activate the heated grips, even though they're plugged in. In my Yamahas, I had an MT-09, I have an MT-10. You just plugged them in and the computer recognized them, and all of a sudden the light was there on the dash. So it was a bit disappointing that I got to go to a dealer. I'm going to a different dealer than I bought my bike from, because I'm not going back to that dealer unless I absolutely have to. So I found a dealer. Like I said, I'm right on the Canadian border. So there's a dealer in BC that said I basically call them 45-minute warning and they'll turn it on. I can drive in and be out gone in 15 minutes. So that, at least it's that. At least they're not making me like drop the bike off and make a big deal out of it. So, but yeah, it's still a bit disappointing. I feel a bit of a money grab going on with the bike. Like I was saying, with not being able to get a service manual, trying to force you to go to the dealer for everything. For somebody like myself that works on all their own stuff, that's it's a bit disappointing.
So I feel two ways about it when I watch the video. I like to do benefit of the doubt. It's possible, since the bike is so brand new and that they haven't released a lot of docus about it yet, meaning the service manual and everything else. Because, again, the bike was released, well, technically it's been released now, but they announced it, a couple of months ago. And I think they're still fulfilling orders and everything else, and there's still a ton of people that are waiting that still didn't receive it. I think that might be a case, but I think it should have been pretty much automated. Once it's plugged, it recognizes what's been plugged for it to release that. It shouldn't have to be done by the dealer.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to go to the dealer to turn your heated grips on. That it's kind of silly. And not every, so in the instructions, like I said, it was that 3D code you scan. The instructions were quite confusing. It would have every bike listed that those grips were for, which was like 10 different bikes, and it would like show you how to remove the stock grips, and then you'd have to scroll down to the middle section, find the bike again, and then the middle section was all how you would install them, and then you had to scroll all the way down again, find your bike again for how to turn them on. So it could have just grouped them together a little better, but so I didn't realize at first that I actually couldn't turn them on. And the only one, it looked like there was about 4 models, and you can see it at the end of the video where it says the different models, but most of the models you're able to turn on by yourself on the dash. For whatever reason, this one you're not able to.
So this is one thing that I love about the podcast and the stream. We get to share like some fun information. So since we're talking about manuals, working on your bike and getting stuff activated, I think it's a known thing by the Italian crowd. They don't expect us to work on our own bikes. I think it's more of an American thing where we take a shot at it first, and we give it our best. Hopefully we resolve it. If not, if it's something that's a little bit more daunting, we'll take it to the dealer. In the Italian world, these broad instructions are given to the official technicians that are taking courses and everything else, and then they expect you to take their bikes. This is kind of a thing that I've heard through the industry. I won't say from where, but it's more of a known thing that in Italy, you just take your bike to somewhere. You don't really do any of the actual work. This is more of an American thing. I figured I kind of highlight that.
Yeah, no, it's fair. But for me, it's pride of ownership, right? Like it makes the bike feel like it's mine. Until I work on it, it's somebody else's bike. Somebody else put it together. I mean, seriously, that's how I always felt that way. So once I work on it, have it apart, put it back together, improve it, then it's my bike.
Let's see here. Airbox. I want to look at that Airbox, man. Because I know for the KTM, for the Husqvarna.
Yep. Lots of gains we had in the Airbox.
Yes, lots of gains to be done with the Airbox. I'm going to roll this video of you showing the Airbox. That was very interesting as well. And it looks like there was a lot of gains that happened after you pulled the Airbox, which is really, really cool to kind of highlight that. Take a look, guys.
Start playing around with my new bike.
Did you see the hummingbird that was flying behind my head?
I found us some free horsepower, but disclaimer,
I could hear it.
not
It sounds like a
do this mod until we can tune it
but I knew what it
and
was
properly adjust the air-fuel ratio. This is not something you want to do. But when we
Must
can
be the
tune
yellow
it,
in the hat.
and
It's attracted to the Rossi hat.
email Woolick, then this is going to show even bigger gains. So if in case you aren't aware, and you probably aren't, this is the Airbox lid for the Hypomotard 698. And that big cylinder has to breathe through that little hole. And they do this a lot because of noise emissions and stuff. So I did some testing, and all I literally did was pull the filter, the Airbox lid off. Nothing else. That's still the stock filter. No other changes. I did a couple different runs, and I tried a couple things. So I tried it like this with everything plugged in, and then I tried unplugging the O2 sensor, and it surprisingly actually made things worse. So unplugging the O2 sensor, I mean. So I'm going to show you the dyno runs. And I gained a full 2 horsepower and just tons in the mid-range with this. So again, I'm not telling you to do this, but if we could properly, or I could properly tune this, we could get some really big gains with not really costing big money. So good stuff. Interesting, and I'm really excited because I think this thing's going to be even more insane once we open up the exhaust. I got a Sprint filter on the way. I'm sure that will make some difference. Yeah, let's email Woolick so we can tune this thing and unlock its potential.
And holy crap, here's what happens when we pull the Airbox lid off. So the red line is Airbox lid off, blue line is with it on, no other changes. And I'll show you the air fuel in a second, and you can see the Airbox lid off below $5,000 is below the Airbox lid on, but it's only because the air fuel ratio stayed worse like we've seen on the other runs. So yeah, a full 2 horsepower in peak number. That peak is arriving earlier, and now we can really see the throttle restriction. So if we look out past like 9,500, I'm sure there's throttle restrictions. That dip that I thought was a throttle restriction, just crappy Airbox lid up at the top. All the dips actually are just crappy Airbox lid. So when we can tune this, this is going to be even better. Let me show you what the air fuel looked like. And you can see what I'm saying, that it stayed lean a lot longer. We actually had an area between 65 and 7,500 where the air fuel was really damn good, but real small, and then it just keeps getting richer and richer like it does with the stock Airbox lid. So these gains will be even more when we can tune it. Let's take a look at a couple little spots. And you can see if we look at it right around 6,800, right in the meat of everything, we've gained a full 5 horsepower. That's like almost 10% power, 4 foot-pounds of torque, which is a full 10% in torque. And if we look up at $8,000, again, we gained 6.
I tell you, David, those videos are super useful to me. At least for me, you know, I find a lot of value in content like that. I know there's a lot of stuff on the internet. Seeing somebody that's knowledgeable and that understands this stuff and could put it in layman's terms for most people to understand and see the benefit, it was a no-brainer to kind of have you come on and just kind of chat up and stuff like that. So thank you so much. I appreciate
thanks for having me, Mike.
Through, and I appreciate you putting these videos out. It's really cool to be ahead of the game. As for the Airbox, so it looks like with a Sprint P08 filter, we're gonna get some nice gains from it. That little cover is so small. Where is the air coming from to feed into that?
Coming from around the seat. There's not really a good answer to that, is there? Right? You look at it and you're thinking, well, how the hell could it possibly breathe? And obviously, by the results that I showed, it's not breathing well, right? So, yeah, the Airbox lid, I have a P08, the Sprint filter here. I like Sprint filters. I like the dry filter over an oiled filter. I don't like oil filters because the first time you clean them, you got to re-oil them. I never know how much oil to put on them. You don't put enough, it doesn't filter. You put too much, it doesn't flow. So I prefer the Sprint. And I will, once I can tune, I will test the Airbox lid with the Sprint. I think with the stock lid, the Sprint will be useless because the restriction is in the lid. It's not going to be in the filter. But once we have the Airbox lid modified, or like I said, I'm working on one that'll just fold up. And then we can tune it. And then I think the Sprint filter will show even more gains. Filters generally show gains when the intake is the restrictive area. And then, like I was saying earlier, when you have one really large cylinder, that cylinder gets thirsty. So it's likely the stock filter will be a restriction on it. And it looks like an old like Fram car filter when you look at it, right? Like the orange around it. I don't, it's like, what the hell is that? So yeah, I'm excited to see what this thing will do on cork and to really be able to dyno it in and get it tuned in properly once I can flash it.
That's my concern about it. It's not just putting a different air filter in it. The way it's covered and the way it's sucking air in, it's very weird. I know the KTM has a induction system that goes from the very front all the way back to suction air all the way down to the engine. And when you remove that, they just put like a small plaque. I'm forgetting the brand. But they're one of the only one that does that mod where they remove completely that big induction box and just put like a little grate over the filter. It's a spray oil filter, which I don't want to do neither. But I'm really curious to see what's going to be the mod for that Airbox, because that top is too shallow. It's too shallow. And
so what I'm working on is it's just going to be a surround that'll just hold the filter in, and it won't have a lid. It'll just hold the filter in, so all the air has to come through the filter, and it'll seal the filter, but there'll be actually no lid over top of the air filter element area in itself. So it'll just be able to breathe through that way. And then so you won't have a lid covering it or a small hole that it has to breathe through. So it'll allow for much better flow. Basically what I did when I did that test, right, is you remove the lid so that it can breathe, and then so the surround, just enough to hold the filter down.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I'm really curious what's going to happen with that. With the air, that's one thing, and then just changing the up map, how much more we're getting. I believe that this bike is going to trump the competition. Because there's no reason, I mean, I mentioned this to you before, there's no reason to why Ducati would do a bike a tad bit heavier, a lot more, a taller ceiling in terms of RPM, instead of, trimming the bike further down. And they've seen the competition before they built theirs, so technically they got a cheat code. So I have a feeling once the bike's been unlocked, we're going to see a lot of different things in terms of tunes, air intake, and, we already even have lighter wheels. So I think it's going to be a game changer down the line. It might not be this iteration, maybe the next one. But in my case, it doesn't really matter too much. It's plenty of power. It's really a fun bike to kind of hoon around, maybe like 20, 50 miles around my home and stuff. So it's not like I'm going to do 200-mile trips with the bike.
I did 160 today.
Oh my God. Man. All right, so that's doable. So what mods do you see moving forward with your RVE you're going to be doing? 'Cause for me, mine is not going to be too many things. It's more, I'll do some aesthetic things, and then I'll do the exhaust, maybe an up map. Hopefully something is available soon. Again, maybe you can do by 2, who knows? And Airbox for sure. And I don't think there's going to be any frame sliders for this bike. There's no place where it would fit. So I'm guessing carbon fiber engine cover and clutch cover.
Yeah, it sounds about online with what I'm going to do. I'll do an exhaust if and when Wheelie makes me so I can actually tune it. I'll test a couple of the different exhausts, choose which one I like the best. And as we see, that Airbox lid will definitely be a definite. And then tuning it, I think that'd be it for the motor. I think at that point I'll probably be over 80 horsepower and we'll be which would be plenty. He said the bike already is pretty quick. I rode with my friend with a Z900 today, and he commented that he was pretty surprised how quick it came off the corner and how hard it pulled. As far as aesthetic, carbon fiber, right? It's Ducati. He doesn't like carbon fiber on a Ducati. It just kind of goes together, right? So yeah, I kind of Shift Tech. In the past I've purchased a lot of Shift Tech carbon fiber. I like their stuff. Their stuff's quality. So we'll see what's coming out. So far it's limited. I got to get rid of that ugly rear fender. That looks horrible. But I haven't really seen a fender delete yet that I like. Yeah, I don't think I'll touch the wheels. I love the two-tone wheels. I have some BST wheels on my H2, but they didn't have the really super pretty wheels to start with. So I think it'd be kind of moving backwards to get rid of those RVE wheels, and yeah, some carbon fiber bits, and we'll call it a day and just ride it and enjoy it.
I agree. That's my intention as well. Keeping it nice and simple and enjoy it with an exhaust, really. And to be honest, I've been on the market for something like this for a long time, and so much so that I kind of deconstruct my SP just to kind of make it somewhat like this bike. And I was debating it early on whether should I get rid of one and then keep the other. And surprisingly, they are two completely different bikes for two different applications. If you could only have one, in my opinion, people are asking this question a lot. And it's not a clear answer. For me personally, if you could only have one and you have the skill to ride the SP, like the RVE or the mono, if you want to call it that, I would get the SP. If you don't have the skill to ride the SP, I would do the 698 mono, because that one could kind of up your game in terms of riding and build your confidence to really enjoy that bike, because I find that it's very difficult to enjoy like a 950 SP or 939 SP. If you're gonna ride it from A to B without some of the fun stuff and some of the risky stuff, that bike could be a little boring. Hence why I said if you have the skill, go straight for the bigger bike. If not, the 698 would be the ideal motorcycle. Now, if you could have two bikes, I'd say get a super bike in a 698. That's perfect. That's the perfect mix, in my opinion. What's your take?
So I think it comes down to a lot, like you're talking about what kind of riding you do. So I live in Northwest Washington now. So the road, I don't have any place like when I lived in South Florida for 30 years. So every bike I owned in South Florida, I would take to Mexico and lay on the tank and go absolutely as fast as it would go, and trying to get 2 more miles an hour out of it. And if you go on a group ride in Florida without a leader bike, like forget it. Like, I mean, you got to be on a sport bike, or you really can't go on a group ride because everybody just flies everywhere they go. For me now, I was looking for kind of like what you were talking about, like my MT10. Even that, if I roll into it for 3 or 4 seconds, I'm going 120 miles an hour, kind of fast for the roads around here. So I was looking for more of a bike that I could really ride aggressively and not necessarily be going to go to jail instantly speed. So for me, so far, that's what I found. And also the road surfaces here are not so great. We have a lot of roads that are a little tore up, and the extra travel and that on the suspension on the 698 does a much better job. The MT10's a bit stiff. I don't know how your R-Mod or the other Hypermotard is, but when riding for cruising, like today when I got stuck behind cars on the 698, I was still having fun. Like I didn't feel like I got to get around this car this second or I'm going to lose my shit. And because it's just how you're seated, sitting up high, being able to see really good. I think for the type of riding that I do around here, the 698 is perfect. It's in the wheelhouse. Now, if I still lived in Florida, no, it would be more of a novelty bike in Florida. But up here in Northwest Washington, in the Pacific Northwest, I think the 698 is perfect.
I completely agree regarding that. It's a fun bike for a lot of reasons, and I'm glad you mentioned about traffic. That's the perfect transition. It's like you throwing the layups, and I'm just like shooting it. Ducati, heat, being hot, it's always a conversation. And since we spoke about traffic, and people were already asking me regarding the RVE, regarding the heat, and just like I explained before with my SP, I think those bikes are a blessing and a curse. They're very tall, If you're a seasoned rider, you know what you're doing, you should be okay. But the benefit of being on a hyper motard, you're above the heat. So it's one of those things that's a complete benefit. You don't feel the heat. You could ride. I usually ride my hyper all day through New York City or go in the mountains, and it's still perfectly fine. And I'm not like burning. Same thing with the RVE. It was still in winter here. Well, we were in spring now, but I've been riding it in the winter. The bike wasn't extremely hot. I didn't feel like it was bothersome, and I feel like it's gonna be the perfect application for the summer. It won't be too hot because again, you're above the heat. So, what's your experience?
Yeah, and you don't
have no mouse on it.
Yeah, so I had a V4S for a while, and that bike, like the frame rails would get so hot, you would swear that like you would swear you had a blister on your inner thigh, right? And so, but you don't, like we were talking about, there's no place to put the frame slider, so there's no metal frame sitting there wrapped around you. I mean, there's a metal frame on it, but it's not like the big frame spars on a super sport bike. I have not found it to be hot at all. Again, like you were talking about, the temperature I've ridden it in so far is like 70 degrees. So I haven't ridden it on a 90-degree day and stop and go traffic. One of the things, speaking of traffic, that so far bothers me the most about the bike is the fueling riding it in traffic. Like a little bit below 4,000 RPMs, like 30 miles an hour in third gear, the bike surges, and you can just tell that the fueling's all off. So, like I said, I can't wait to be able to tune the thing and get it fixed. But that drives me nuts. Like, because that bike should be a complete hoot, and it will be once that's fixed. But I'm always kind of between gears. Like if I drop it down into a lower gear, I feel like the RPMs are too high for cruising around at 40 miles an hour. But then when I come up to the gear where the RPM feels right, it kind of surges and stuff. So I've had zero complaints of heat, but I do have complaints about the surging and the not perfect running at low RPMs.
I think that's definitely a Ducati thing. Again, the racing DNA thing where they want you to be going fast all the time. However, for us, our application is really for daily usage. So again, I think the bike will become something a little bit different once it's tuned by you.
Yeah, but I think I'm not gonna give him a pass on that like you are because it's a modern motorcycle, so there's no more there doesn't have to be a compromise, right? Like a properly tuned motorcycle runs great at all RPMs and our throttle positions. I'm not giving up anything on top because it runs well on the bottom. There's no inherent advantage on top because it doesn't run good on the bottom. So they could. It's the EPA is basically what's doing it, and that's the big culprit because if they fuel it properly, then it won't pass emissions.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's pretty much the same thing. They have to kind of split oranges or whatever to make the bike Euro compliance and everything else. I'm even 100% certain on the clutch casing they're covering a little bit because when I took my Street Fighter apart, for the clear clutch cover, there's a lot of sound dampening that they do on the inside of the engine, which of course makes it a little bit heavier to make sure that they can pass emissions. Let me check something real quick. I want to.
Yeah, and that's why I'm guessing that the stock Airbox lid is the way it is, because the intake noise, right? So when we open up that intake, the Airbox lid, it's going to get a really cool and awesome intake sound, which is cool for us, but not cool for sound testing. So I'm sure that's why that they have it so restricted, because intake noise, every noise counts, right? So, and by having everything else quieter, then they can make the exhaust a little louder.
Yeah. So the funny thing that you mentioned, I thought it was very interesting. The other day, I went out to ride with friends, and I went with the Aprilia. Had a blast, and I uploaded the video today, and my wife was like, "I don't think I like you riding that bike like that anymore." She didn't see the video. I pretty much, usually I filter my videos and she check them out and stuff before it's uploaded. And he just went live. She's like, "I don't think I like the way you ride that bike." And the funny thing is I was riding with a friend with an R1, and it was pretty much wide open road. And as much as I cracked that throttle, man, I could not hit that limiter. And no matter how much road, and I'm asking myself, how much do you need until you reach a space where it's enough? And hence why I like the RVE. I still have a great time with it. It's pretty fun. As long as you're pushing over 70 miles an hour, that's plenty. And I'm finding on the Aprilia, if I'm not doing like 135, and you don't feel it, the way you're cutting through the air, you don't feel it because you're just gliding through it. And I told a friend of mine, solo rider, that with me on sport bikes, it's like there's very little fear because you don't feel it, and you're just going so fast. And that's why I'm like, I like enjoying some of my naked bikes because I tend to be a little bit more tame when I'm riding the bike. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. So
Yeah, have you ridden a V4?
yeah, I have a V4 Street Fighter.
Okay, they're bonkers, right? Like, it's bonkers. Like how effortlessly that thing goes 120, 130 miles an hour is it just blew. And I have an H2, and like the H2, you got to spin up, like like so you can. It's docile when you're riding around, like you give it the beans and you like get that thing spinning up. Yeah, it's a rocket ship. It's making like 250 horsepower, but the V4 was just bonkers all the time. That motor impressed me more than any motor I've ever ridden on a bike.
Well, it continues going. You crack the throttle and it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. It's like a never ending. It's like, do you let go first or does the bike let go first kind of thing? And for me to enjoy my Street Fighter, I have to take it. We have a beach area where it's pretty much all open when there's no like troopers or anything like that. So I could probably ride the bike and really open it up a little bit. And I still short shift. On that bike because for you to hit that high in the RPM, you're gonna be 180, 189. Then the screen's gonna blink out at that point.
Right.
And it's just like,
so it's definitely nice to ride a slow bike fast, right? Like to really be able to be aggressive and really go at it and attack a road instead of just waiting for the exit and applying throttle.
Yeah, it's a great bike. I mean, it's great to have options, and I think you're probably in the same boat because you do have a lineup of bikes. I'll let you kind of explain which bikes that you have. If anything, I would love for you to show your bikes so everybody could take a look at them. And you will see a similar theme to David, guys, that it's not really having the fastest bike, the biggest bike. I think it's nice to have options, really. Just being able to pick and choose what you feel like riding, or if you just want to hang out or cruise around. And that's what's special about it. Again, people tend to talk about, oh my God, this bike is so expensive. For the amount you bought an RVE, you could have bought a BMW S1000. Yes, you could have. But that's all relative. The guy that's buying an S1000 for M1000 for $50,000, this bike is not expensive. So again, it's a matter of where you are and what you're looking at. And to be honest, if you're spending more than $8,000 on any bike, it's expensive in my opinion because it's a toy. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I have zero desire to own an S1000. Zero. Just being honest, like I have no desire to. So here's what I'll do: I'm gonna walk down to the garage, see if I can keep my signal, and I'll give you a quick tour of the bikes, and we'll go for there. See if this works.
Yeah, let's take a look.
See if I can make you not too dizzy on the travel there.
I'll take a look at the comments, guys. If you're watching and you have low audio, whose audio is low? My audio. So David's walking to his garage. So, well then, how about now? Can you guys hear me a little bit better? Let's check the settings. And my apologies, guys. I know it's the first time back with the stream, and things are not completely perfect, and they will be. And I'm just excited to be back. I'm excited to kind of, be back on the stream and showing stuff. So yeah, M1000 is a dope bike. By the way, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Or if you have any questions regarding the RVE, let us know. This bike is incredible, guys. At least for me, I really like this bike. And I think moving forward, I think for the season, this might be the bike I'm going to ride the most, really. Because here's the thing. I like being close to home. I like being able to go home and have lunch and make sure I check on my wife or whatever. So, I could ride this probably even to the city and back, and it's plenty. The bike is really fast for what it is. And I think I've been riding it between 2,000 and 6,000 RPM, and I've hit 100 miles an hour. So I can imagine me getting to the 11,000 RPM mark. You know, the bike will definitely pick up once it's been modded. David's in his garage, so let's take a look. Saw you, David. Oh my God, look at all the bikes, dude.
So these are my two active project bikes. This is the Suzuki GSX-8. Actually, similar Airbox mod to that. It had huge gains with the Airbox mod. That's my track day bike. So you were talking about like different purposes. So ZX4RR, again, a smaller bike. And I'm testing the Spark exhaust currently, so that's why it's up on the dyno. I just got done the street tuning part with that, but that's my track day bike. So I'm going to start racing again this year, and that's what I'm going to be using. So I'm testing the Spark, and then I have the Arrow, and then I'm going to be done developing different exhaust tunes for it, and then just be riding it. And then I'll end up with the Graves low mount, which is on the floor over there. It's my 2001 R1. It's got like 5,500 miles on it, Champ Edition. I've had it a few years. Actually going to be selling it because I don't really ride it that much. I ride it like twice a year so that it doesn't go to shit. But I got the original back tire on an original wheel, which is kind of cool, but it is a gorgeous bike, right? So one thing about Ducatis and Yamahas, they do hold up pretty well. It's still a really cool looking bike. 996 that was my dad's. We raced that together at Daytona, did a 200-mile team race together on that bike. So that bike will never go anywhere. The awesome. Bike that I take when my wife is with me, my H2SX, and it's fully tuned. Like I said, it's making like 250 at the back tire. It's pretty nuts. And then my MT10 is my other solo bike that I ride when I'm by myself. So MT10 and Hypermotard when I'm by myself, when I got the wife with me, the Kawasaki, and then when I'm at the track, the ZX4.
That's awesome, man. Beautiful collection, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it. See if I can flip this camera around here. There we go. Now I get back to my ugly mug.
Oh my God.
Look at that.
That's crazy. So what do you intend to do moving forward, man? I mean, like I said, your channel is very interesting. I'd love to see it grow, and I'd love to see people to check out what you're doing and show love and support. I'll also need the link for the for Uric, you said, or Ulick?
Woolick, WOOLIC.
Woolick.
So if you go to any of my Hypermotard videos and you look at the description, the link is in there.
Okay. So I'm going to grab that link, guys. Go check it out. Sign up on it. We want everybody to sign up for that sheet. The more people sign up, the more likely it's going to be released so we can actually get mods done on this bike. And I'm very excited to see what we can do with this motorcycle long term. Oh.
Yeah, me too. Hey, if I drop off my party foul, but my battery's going dead on my phone. So if I drop off it, it's because my battery went dead. As far as where I'm going is, like I said, I would like to be able to develop out the Hypermotard like I have with the other bikes. If you go to my website, you'll see like vcyclenut.com and go to latest flash and development. You'll see what I'm talking about, where I develop a page where it's just a resource for owners. Like on the ZX4, I have a weight page, like a spreadsheet with all the different weight of different components and aftermarket components. You'll see like every exhaust that's out tested with numbers and stuff. So it gives you the ability, if you're own that bike, that you have a resource that you can go to and see so you can make informed decisions about what you want to do as far as exhaust and intake and tuning and stuff like that. So I would hope to do that with the Hypermotard. I'm finishing up, like I said, with the GSX-8 and then the ZX4, and then I'm not sure. I'm looking if they keep talking about an R9. If the R9 comes out, I will probably get that because the CP3 Yamaha platform is really big for me. So beyond that, I'm not sure. Whatever catches my fancy, I will work on.
Oh, by the way, David, quick question for you. How tall are you?
5'9".
Oh, so you're an inch taller than me.
Oh, perfect. Wow, I'm actually an inch taller than you?
Yeah, I'm 5'8".
Damn. So how are you getting along with the Hypermotard?
That's where we're going. Oh my God, the layups is crazy.
You just write them up and just slam dunk them.
It's so good. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, so I'm used to riding the SP, and that's way taller. Well, it's not way taller. It's taller. The Olin suspension are stiffer, so it does not like sag
Right.
And I've mastered that bike. What I've done, I've been riding for several years. I'm pretty good. I think I'm decent. I'm a decent rider. Unless I absolutely need to be like foot down, I don't have to. I move really slow. I can keep the bike upright, moving really slow through traffic, or moving really slow just when I need to. And I always advise people to do this. Even though if you've been riding for years and years, go out and practice being able to modulate the clutch and the rear brake and just really move the bike real slow. It became like a special skill kind of thing. Outside of that, it's like I'm just shifting and tippy-toeing to the one side. I'm perfectly fine. I hold the rear brake on my right, and then I tippy-toe on my left. I'm pretty much fine. But I find on the RVE, I'm way more comfortable. My foot's pretty much down on that bike. It's because of the sag once you're sitting, kind of thing. It looks like your connection is probably janky, but yeah, go ahead. How's yours? I'm only asking because a friend of mine is very interested. Oh, looks like David's connection dropped. Super important we get that answered. So I'm sure he's going to come back because it's the same link. I want to know how he does it with 5'9". I'm asking for a very good friend of mine that has a hypermotard, and he's not tall. So he's trying to figure out how is it with the RVE. I think the RVE is a more ideal bike if you're not very tall. The way the bike tends to sag once you sit on it, you're perfectly fine. You know, 1 foot down, I'm completely flat-footed on the RVE. I don't know why it feels different. Oh, never mind. I know why it feels different. The bike is slimmer. It's slimmer. So your inseam's going to appear longer when you're sitting on it in comparison to the SP. I'd say the SP is more of a expert bike.
Really, even just that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't had any problems. I just the only time it's weird is if you're on a weird like bank, you know, like if the pavement's not flat, you know, like kind of cambered. If I'm on a cambered pavement, sometimes I've struggled a little bit, but not too horribly.
Hey, so you know what it is? It's a little bit tricky because even though you might be taller than me, I might have a bigger inseam than you.
I got
It's kind of hard.
Yeah, I probably have inseam envy. Don't laugh at my jokes, man. They'll only get worse.
Oh my God, this is ridiculous. That's so good. Oh man, you're out of control. Yeah, because you know, sometimes in some cases I find where some people are a tad bit taller. However, their inseam is a little bit like their upper torso.
Yeah, no, I got you. Proportion. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I haven't really had a problem. You know, it's not the easiest bike to like backing it up, like if I'm sitting on the seat, like because I can't get enough, you know, good grip or whatever. But I haven't had any issues yet.
Well, I'll tell you now, I don't dare back up my SP or this bike. I pull in, either I'm pulling in and backing it up, or I pull in, I get off, and then I back it. You know, right. I back it up myself. I wouldn't do it because that's just like disaster waiting to happen, knowing that you shouldn't do it. So that's the main thing for me. What else did I wanted to cover? I think that's pretty much it, really. Oh, tail tidy. There's only one currently out on the market. It's the New Age. I think it's the New Age. Have you seen that?
I have not. I have to check it out.
Yeah, the New Age is out. I don't think anybody has that on yet.
Have you used New Age products?
I've never used New Age products. This will be my first. I know exactly where you're going here. I know exactly where you're going here. But it does look different. It doesn't have the frosted LED. It looks like it is an actual LED strip in the back. I am going to have an install video on it and probably some kind of review on it and give people some heads up because I know there's one out for me. I've been contacted for one. There should be one on the bike, hopefully by the end of the week or so, or maybe down the line. Hopefully everything's great, but what's your experience? Might as well chime in. We're already
I had their low mount turn signals on my 1299, and I just wasn't very happy with the quality of them. they had like a mirror replace. They went where the mirror, if I remember correctly, in the 1299, the mirrors had the turn signals on them, right? So when you remove the mirrors, you remove your turn signals, and these kind of replaced it. And they just weren't that great. But that was 6 or 7 years ago. So they may have, and that was just one product. That's my only real experience with them. So that's it. I don't want to speak too badly about them because I don't have enough experience to say, and that wouldn't really be fair.
Fair enough. I can respect that. It's Calvin 25. I don't know why I said the number Calvin. He said he's 6 foot and he's on his tippy toe on an RS. Yeah, you definitely have inseam envy, my friend.
I mean, don't be stealing my time, man. Come on, Mike. You got
that was a layup. I'm gonna take it.
Use it however you want. It's all good.
No, you should definitely be able to flat foot that bike because I'm pretty comfortable on the RS. One of my favorite bikes. Actually, I try not to ride it too much because I think I definitely go a little too insane riding that bike. Let's see what else do I got. I don't think I have anything else, man. To be fair, I'm pretty happy with the RVE. Even with the turn signals, I'm not that much taken back by how they look or they feel. They're already LED. They're not super small, but usually I upgrade a lot of these things, but I'm not really pressed to do most of these things, really. They look pretty good.
Yeah, it's not horrible. It's not horrible.
Yeah. I definitely need a radiator guard. Have you seen Evotech's page?
I have not.
Or Motivation's page? Go there. That's where we go.
All right, I will.
They already have a bunch of stuff from Evotech for it. Frame slide, not frame slider, rear axle slider, fork sliders, and bar end mirrors, bar end brake lever guards, and stuff like that. There's a couple of nice stuff.
How do you put bar end mirrors on it with the hand cards? Do you have to remove the hand guards?
They have their own hand guards that you can actually install and then put the bar end mirrors. On the other hand, on mine, you can see the top. There's no mirrors on mine. I was fortunate enough. I had a pair of Moto Gadget bar end mirrors. It fits perfectly right in between the hand guards and the right-hand side of the left-hand side of the bike.
Nice.
Yeah, so I push it out a little bit. You probably can't see it, but it's a very clean look. I'm not really taking to do much, really. I would love to probably do the reservoirs. That's more of a flex, really. It's not needed for that bike.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Form does count, but I'm definitely more of a function guy.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see custom rear sets for it, though.
I would like to be able to reverse my shift pattern. So almost all my bikes are GP. And that was tough at the track. So not granted, I was going from a ZX4 that has a rider triangle that like your elbows, your knees, and your hands are all within like 3 inches of each other. And so to go to the Hyper Motard was an extreme change. But having to reach all the way up under and get underneath the shift lever, it felt like a far reach when I was hanging off the right side of the bike. So I would really love to be able to go GP shift pattern with it. But if you look at how it's set up, it would be difficult.
Yeah, you would need a longer rod for it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of my bikes is set up as GP is just the V4S.
Okay.
Outside of that, everything else I ride pretty much standard. And the V4S, it's such a wild bike. I don't ride it as much. I feel like a similar situation regarding the RS. When I ride the Aprilia, I ride really aggressive, which is not even really needed for the fun factor. But yeah. All right. David, I'll let you plug in your channel, and please plug in where they would go again for that upmap. For the tune that you were trying to get.
Yeah, let's not say upmap, man. That's a Terminioni product. We're not promoting Terminioni products here today on our podcast.
Sir.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. So it's my website is vcyclenut.com. My page is Flash by vcyclenut. My YouTube channel. If you go to any of my Hyper Motard videos and you look in the description, you'll see the link to send an email to Wheelie and basically ask them to make the 698 available to us to tune. And once we have that available, then I'll be able to really unlock the bike and show its potential. And once that starts, then my channel will be full of ton of content of tuning stuff for the 698. So, and even if you're not planning on getting a tune and you own a 698 and you just want to help the community, it really gives the more options that we have for tuning and modifying, obviously the better it is. So let's not be all stuck with just canned tunes, like, because that's what an up map is, right? If it's our only option, an up map's basically just a canned tune for a couple different options. And then of course we're going to have the Ducati reflash, but again, would really like to be able to custom tune some 698s.
Yeah. I agree. I completely agree. Well, David, thank you so much for coming through and sitting down with us. You're always welcome to come back and chat and
cool.
Fill us in with some of this cool knowledge that you have. So, actually, you know what? We should definitely come back once that tune comes up and you start working on the bike. I'd love to kind of get a little bit more insight. Why not? That'd be great.
Yeah, cool. Maybe we could do some homework. I'll send you some charts and shit so you can post them up, and then I can talk about them and show, kind of like I do in my videos. I can talk about them and see, we can see before and after, and all the steps that are taken to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples and stuff. But I enjoyed this, Mike. It was good time. Thanks everybody that watched and listened to us go back and forth. But appreciate you, and love your channel. Keep it up. And have a good one, man. Be safe.
Thank you, man. You have a good one.
You too. Peace.
All right, boys and girls, just before we do a final wrap up, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been so long bringing back the podcast. If you want to support what I do, I have links in the description, guys. shopmotivationusa.com. We're going to have a ton of stuff for the RVE coming out of motivationusa.com. You guys know the deal. Hit the link if you want to show us some love, support. You want to support what I do here. Shop with them. Shop with any of the links that's in the description. Thank you to everybody that's been part of the channel, man. I know you see a lot of this stuff. The garage is done. Cabinets are done. My wife got me a lift as well. So this has been an amazing journey. I'm super excited where I'm going to go with the channel. And it seems like the stream/podcast is what everybody wants to see. You will be seeing some moto vlogs as well. But we're going to make this more essential. And the other thing that I'm planning to do, I'm going to try to do them as often as possible on Sundays. But unless we have a good guest, a good conversation that we're going to have, we're probably going to skip the Sunday. So keep an eye out on my community posts on Instagram. That's where I kind of give the update. And I will be promoting these streams or podcasts starting midweek. So probably you'll see a post on Wednesday, and then on a Friday, and then again on the Sunday of, just as a reminder that we're gonna go live. And if you guys feel inclined, you could definitely hit our Patreon. We do have some pretty cool stuff that you guys can get. The t-shirt that I'm wearing, key tags, and some other cool things. But it wouldn't be a garage podcast if I didn't do a startup. So we'll do the RVE startup, boys, and then we'll be done. You know what? I'm feeling spicy. Let's do the Aprilia too. By the way, your boy has a window now, so I could actually turn the bikes on and still get some ventilation. That's how I'm living. Yo, I'm feeling extra spicy. There's so many more keys. Let's get to it. I'm sure the neighbor. Oh my God! I got water on the laptop. Oh my God! Oh shit! From the exhaust, guys. Oh my God. Yeah, that's it for you guys. Catch you guys later. Peace.